Welcome to Instruction Discussion, our weekly look at the latest topics and trends in education affecting schools here on Long Island and schools around the world. Whether you're a teacher, parent, or student, listen for tips and strategies to help you navigate the educational landscape. There's a bell. It's time to start today's Instruction Discussion on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello, I'm Kevin Boston Hill, and welcome to Instruction Discussion, where each week we will examine a recent trend or development in education and its impact on Long Island. Today, I am honored to welcome to our classroom the president of Nassau Community College, Dr. Jermaine Williams. Welcome to Instruction Discussion on 90.3 WHPC.
Thank you, Kevin Boston Hill. It is extremely exciting to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So, before we actually delve into today's class, let's find a little bit more about you. So how long have you been at Nassau Community College, and where did you start your career?
Oh, wow. So I've been here since July 1st, 2019, so a little bit longer than a year. So we're, pushing on, 15 or 16 months, and I've been loving every minute of it. Where I started my career, actually not too far away, my higher education career, that is, I started at St. John's University, about 20 years ago as an academic advisor in what was their fairly newly formed University Freshman Center. So it's, I'm kind of came back home actually for this wonderful opportunity to lead this fantastic institution, and a lot of stops in between.
So let me ask you, would you say that your role as a college president is closest to that of president of a company, president of the United States, so to speak, or a little of both?
A little. I'm sure like several of the listeners and you and I have done, some reading in regards to, leaders and leadership qualities. And even though, I've never, had the two other roles, I do have obviously the community college president role. And I would say, just based on my experience and talking with peers, being the leader of an organization, you really want to try and unify, right? You want to try and unify that group. You want to try to coalesce around common goals that are truly going to advance the mission and the vision of the organization where you are. And I don't think that changes, kind of regardless of the leadership role. You want to always try and bring out the best in the people that you're working with, right? So that you can ultimately, meet the needs of, that you have as an organization. I would say in regards to, while my role is not so much elected in the terms of the president of the United States, we do have a very important election coming up, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say here on your show that I am hopeful that the Nassau Community College voice is heard, just tremendously loud, whether that's a mail-in, whether that's early, or whether that's the day of. However you decide to get out there and illustrate your civic responsibility and somewhat posit civic duty, I truly hope that the Nassau Community College community goes out in the masses. So
now I'm sure that when you took over this role, like you said, 15 months ago in 2019, that there was no possible way you could have envisioned what we're going through now, this pandemic hitting and everybody having to scurry and change things. But how is Nassau Community College positioning itself to remain competitive during this time? How has the school been able to pivot?
And that is, really such a straightforward yet complex question, given COVID, given this pandemic, given this horrific situation that has upended our lives and has really just highlighted and exacerbated the inequities that we have, right? And we talk about, more than 50% of our students are receiving some sort of, financial aid. When we talk about the diversity of the learners who we serve at the college, and, one in every, 4 of our learners approximately is 25 or older. When we talk about, the 50 plus school districts who we attract students from, and, the different experiences those students are having. Some of our students went home in March, and they went home to multi-generational homes that they didn't, there was no den. There was, a shared room. There was, internet connectivity that was not made for online or remote learning. So, how we have transitioned, how we have pivoted, I think, one, our faculty have been great. We are an academic institution. High quality academic experience is what you will have when you come to Nassau Community College. And our faculty have just, Herculean efforts to transition in the spring, so many of our classes from face-to-face to remote. And it was, through their hard work that the college was able to continue to provide that high-level academic experience. Shortly after we transitioned remote, we actually called more than 14,000 students who were enrolled and asked them, how are you? What can we do? How are your classes? Three pretty, straightforward questions to check in on them, because, we cared about how they were doing, and we realized, what, such an upheaval this was. One of the other pieces is we sent out a survey in regards to access as far as technology. So identifying who needed hardware, who needed Wi-Fi, and then we started looking at, and we had, hundreds of laptops, loaner laptops that we provided. Right, we transitioned our support services, to be remote. So we were addressing, mental health. We were advising students, and continue to be, from a distance. Our parking lots are all outfitted with Wi-Fi. So while that's not necessarily the college that we've grown to love as far as the normalcy of it, we are doing so many things to pivot and provide. And I could go on and on in regards to, our library is open, because we know that students, need those types of resources. So there's more I could share, but those are a few of the things that we've done to pivot and really help, equitably address this situation.
No, it's really good to hear that you did the social emotional checkups, as well as not just checking up on students for their academic prowess and achievements, but also checking up on them just from a well-being, almost like a human nature or humanistic standpoint. Just say, how you doing during this time? Because as you mentioned, students were going home to multi-generational households, and their entire lives, their entire family lives and structures was being upended as well. So I think just that aspect of, again, creating that family type of culture that NCC is famous for, to encourage that and to extend that throughout the community, I think is a testament to not only the academic achievements that the university is known for, but also just, again, that humanistic aspect that will also lend itself to some other future endeavors going forward. So I definitely commend you all for that outreach that you and your staff have taken.
Thank you so much. And it's we realize that, holistically approaching education is definitely, the way that it needs to occur. And that has been, long before I joined this great institution. But I'm so proud of how we have all unified, since this horrible situation, even more so, I would say, because there was definitely unity before, but this has strengthened our bonds, strengthened our collaboration, and strengthened, the way in which, we reach out to students. And I think about our partnership with the Nest at Nassau Community College, and that's the food pantry, the on-campus food pantry, who was, they were continued to be supported. A separate 501c3 that resides on the college campus, and we were working with them. So how do you stay open during this time, right? What's safe? How can that happen? The greenhouse is also on the college's campus, and that's the children's greenhouse. So providing childcare, which is still open, and providing childcare for our students, faculty, and staff. Again, a separate 501c3 that we work with and we provide resources for, but definitely taking this holistic look. And I think really quickly, just kind of, even this fall, continuing that effort. A few weeks ago, we sent out a pulse survey. asking a couple quick questions to the approximately 14,000 students who are here, who are remote. I'll get into the percentage who are here, percentage who are remote in a minute. And then we're following up on that with, again, calling all the students. So that gave us kind of the high level categories to look into and to be able to talk with our faculty, our staff, our students. And now we have been for weeks. Now we're calling them to dig a little deeper and tell us more about what's going on. So these efforts continue. We are very serious about equitably supporting our students. We want to do our best to ensure students reach their educational goals.
So I know that there are many schools around the country, many of your counterparts around the country that will provide resources and support for their high achieving students as well as their struggling students. So at either end of that academic spectrum. So they kind of ignore those students in the middle, thinking, oh, they got it, they'll be okay. How has Nassau Community College kind of gone against that trend and really supported all students up and down that academic spectrum?
And I appreciate that question. And there's been a lot of actual, kind of research on this, and focusing, what percentage of your energies, right? And at Nassau Community College, we have an honors program with more than 500 students. It's fantastic. And definitely, there are, programs who are supporting students who we realize are coming in and maybe in, developmental education or, maybe, having as far as, their prior educational background, needing a little bit more support. I think, one of the ways in which we do it, and I think back to, this past spring/summer and how the college pivoted, our advisors, our awesome advisors, endeavored to advise and help each student register. And that's just one example in regards to having those conversations. And we are in the midst of really latching on to and embracing guided pathways, which is helping students identify a path that's linked with their end goals, and then helping them get on the path. Those are the first two pillars of guided pathways. And our advisors, both our professional advisors who are in the advising area and advisors who are faculty who are supporting, just did a fantastic job, this summer of reaching and connecting with all of our incoming students. So I think about that as one example. Another example is also, what we mentioned before in regards to calling every single student. We're not just calling, students who, we think, maybe, they may have more of a concern because of information we've received or because they've reached out to us. We're not just focusing on, the honor students. That was like 14,500 students last spring that were called. All. And another, 14,000 this fall. So that's how we address it. We take an equitable approach and we try and identify what each student is going through so that we can provide them with the resources that they need.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about how the school has really worked with or kind of dealt with the social inequities that have been because we know that this pandemic has really cast a spotlight on those glaring inequities when it comes to education and technological access. And I think you mentioned about the access parts and everything, that some students and even some faculty just don't have the access to Wi-Fi or things at home. So again, I know you mentioned about having equipping the parking lot with Wi-Fi access and so forth, and also the loaner programs, expanding your loaner programs. But is there anything else that NCC has done to address those inequities that currently exist? And it may not just be with your students, but even just in the general community as a whole.
Yes, and it's really good to be able to identify, and share that Nassau Community College has a strong relationship with the community. I mean, my first, before the whole COVID situation occurred and we were all kind of in our homes, I was attending a lot of events, and I would share with people that I work. I never opened with my role, but I would share with people that I worked at the college, and it was like, oh, I'm an alum, or I know someone who's an alum, or, I'm a current student. And it was just, fantastic. So when we think about, the framework that the college has already established in regards to partnerships and looking at access and looking at equity issues, it's a strong foundation. Since I know I can share since I arrived, we've really been doubling down on some efforts, communicating with superintendents, right? Because we talk about access and we talk about equity and we talk about the 50 plus, school districts just in Nassau County. I was able to go out to all of they're kind of broken up, they're broken up into quadrants. Thankfully, they embraced me and I was able to go to all the quadrant meetings, right, to talk about access issues, to talk about equity issues. So, and maintaining that communication throughout the year, looking at how we are, positioning ourselves in the community in terms of, collaborating with and having several conversations over the course of last year with certain chambers of commerce that represent historically marginalized and or underrepresented groups. And we think about, the progress that we've made and the inroads with, the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce and the Long Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And recently we've put out, based on conversations, we've put out a one-pager, both in English and Spanish, that really looks at needs that were identified by both of these chambers, right? Needs that speak to access, needs that speak to, equity, educational opportunities that people need to be more aware of that this great institution offers. So those are some components. I mean, I think about working with, the county executive's office and their areas. So there's definitely a lot that has occurred prior to my arrival and that we've really been working hard on since I arrived to really equitably enhance access and completion. So
you are listening to Instruction Discussion on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Kevin Boston Hill, and our guest today is Nassau Community College President, Dr. Jermaine Williams. Now, Dr. Williams, or Jermaine, and we have this inside joke going on regarding names and everything. Now, And full disclosure for our listeners, we do know each other somewhat, and from some of the other circles that we kind of run in, and one of which is the NCC Black Student Achievement Advisory Council. So, what prompted the development of that council, and what do you hope to accomplish through it?
Absolutely, I appreciate that question, and it's part of taking this equitable approach, right? Equitable approach to access, completion, and post-completion success. And the again, the college's, strong bones with doing that. It's really aligned with where we're going in the communities that we serve. We at Nassau Community College, more than 1 in 5 of our students, so a little more than 20% of our students identify as Black or African American. A little more than 30% of our students identify as Hispanic or Latino. Recently, we applied for and received from the Department of Education an HSI designation, Hispanic Serving Institution designation. And we're very proud of that, and we're looking to leverage that to support all of our students. With that said, when we critically look, part of being equity-minded is critically looking at data, being data-informed, evidence-guided, right? And we look at the gaps that we have and these equity gaps between certain populations. We need to clearly identify strategies that are going to address those equity gaps. And when we look, we do have equity gaps between our students who identify as African American and Black and our students who identify as Caucasian and Asian. And we look at things like graduation rates, and we need to move forward, and we need to advance an agenda that, yes, sees us enhancing access, completion, and post-completion success, but it also sees us doing that equitably. So we're addressing, these issues, which are larger systemic and systematic societal issues. So we created a Black Student Achievement Advisory Council, which I'm so thankful that you are, a member of. And really, this is to engage in critical conversations and explore initiatives that address issues that we know foster inequities amongst our African American students. And the ultimate goal is to, kind of going back to what I said a few moments ago, is to enhance, our achievement for our African American students. And we know that with that is, issues that we need to address. And that's why, they're equity gaps, right? We want to enhance achievement by addressing equity gaps because of the institutionalized components that are so widespread that create. So that's kind of the part of the reason why, or a large part of the reason why. And it's kind of part and parcel as to all the work that we're doing at the college to equitably address issues.
And, some time ago, I was able to read this book called We Won't Lose This Dream. And I actually had the author on the show some time ago as well to kind of discuss it, as far as, because the book chronicles the turnaround that Georgia State University went through in the supporting its what were identified as at-risk students. So, but there was a particular quote in there that resonated with me. That was, the question is not, are the students ready for college, but are we ready for them? So I'm wondering what programs and or policies are currently in place, or maybe even in development, that will support all students, regardless of background or zip code.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that quote. And that is something that it's really, it just speaks volumes, right? And whether we say, as people flip that into the same point of, we used to hear the narrative was college ready. Are you college ready? Jermaine, are you college ready? Kevin, are you college ready? And it's about being student ready, right? It's the whole focus is, do we have an infrastructure that's set up to help students access and complete and be successful afterwards? And I go back to, there's several things I could go back to, but one of those is just really our second year of guided pathways, when it really looks at, helping students identify a path that's linked. And this is all students. That's one of the beautiful pieces of this guided pathways framework. It's helping students identify a path that's linked to their end goal, helping them get on the path, helping them stay on the path, and then ensuring learning, right? Those are the four. It sounds very simple, but when you talk about spreading that across all students, it is an order of magnitude that is immense for an institution this size. I will say one of the other pieces are, really supporting, opportunities that we have and ensuring that people know about it. In fall 2018, we had 775 single parents who were attending Nassau Community College. So when we share with students that, the Children's Greenhouse is here as a resource, that is literally helping students, achieve their educational goals. And so when we look at those types of initiatives and how we're addressing the gaps and creating opportunities for students, those are just kind of two components. But absolutely, it's looking inward, and we think about how we're, our policies and our procedures. And that's something we're going through, with guided pathways, again, is looking at how are we setting students up for success. No longer can we, and this is kind of not a Nassau Community College piece, but you hear this at organizations. I'll kind of be very blanketed about this. Is like we've always done it that way, mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of, so we can't keep doing the same things. And I want to give a shout out again to, people who have preceded me who are still here. And I think about our faculty leadership and our union leadership who are so just involved and dedicated to advancing students, that we've been able to progress a lot in the past year. And I'm hopeful for what the future holds for Nassau Community College.
I'm going to ask you now to to put on your broader education hat at this point, as far as the direction we want to go into, because, there are some who think as a result of the pandemic that the future of education, and they probably even thought about this even before this happened, but the future of education is going to move completely into the virtual space. so that we can do, because we've already shown that we can hold classes online and students can learn remotely. And so that one person can really be teaching literally thousands of people at a time and so forth. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's really practical? Is that something that's going to be, is that a successful model that we should be pursuing? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
One of the best things I've learned that I utilize quite often is going through my doctoral program is the response of it depends. So the beauty of it depends. There's so many different variables when we think about this question and obviously in other questions. What's the end goal, right? So I think one of the most important pieces when we think about education is starting with the end in mind. Different students are going to have different end goals, right? Which are going to potentially create different types of learning scenarios for that particular student, right? There's some things that, really we found out truly need to be hands-on in order for it to be effectively accomplished, especially considering certain, there's accrediting bodies, there are certain tests that people have to take. If they've never done it hands-on, we just, within that industry, we're not at a point within certain times, to be able to provide that education remotely. We can't provide the remote education for something if someone's going to say, well, I'm going to certify you and you need to now do it hands-on, right? If the end goal is to be able to have, done in that way, then the educational opportunity in some way, shape, or form needs to be able to help students be successful for that. So the short answer is it depends. I do think obviously there's a lot that's been done with online and remote. I also, talked with a lot of faculty yesterday. We had a meeting with, 300 people and, there are a lot of touch points that occur remotely that, may not come to, thought at first. And having a classroom with 100 students, which we don't at Nassau Community College, but that's still 100 students you have to reply to. That's still 100 students who you're trying to help learn. And unless you have the infrastructure to set that up where you're breaking them all out and you're doing all these things, I'm not an instructional designer, so I'm not going to get into that. The short answer is we want to be able to create educational opportunities that ensure students are going to be successful and, have a degree of economic value that leads to a family livable wage and social mobility. That's what we need to be focused on, and that's what we want to do at Nassau Community College in a data-minded and an equity-driven way. So,
how would you complete this statement? You will consider your tenure at Nassau Community College a success if
we're able to, we will build off of the beautiful foundation that we have, and in decreasing equity gaps, we will be enhancing access, completion, and post-completion success so that our students are thriving. They're contributing members of society, both economically and civically. They are engaged in so many ways and shapes and forms, and that we are continuing to meet the demands of a diverse, community and county, both educationally, both economically, educationally, civically, and so much more. And I know we're on that path, and I know we can do it. There's so many great people here at the college, and I'm just so thankful and humbled to have this role.
Well, we'd like to thank our guest today, Nassau Community College President, Dr. Jermaine Williams, for stopping by our classroom.
Thank you very much. It was just it was a privilege, and I would love to have another conversation at any point in time.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that, and I would love to have you back here as well. Well, my name is Kevin Boston Hill, and thank all of you for listening to Instruction Discussion right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.